helping people cope with and overcome life's challenges. This is Life Transformations with Michael Hart, Canadian Certified Counselor and award-winning psychotherapist.
Meditation. This word brings to mind different things to different people. Maybe for you it invokes images of yoga poses, monks, weird-looking temples, and maybe burning of incense. Maybe for you, meditation is something that is contrary to your Christian faith, as it is seen as a practice of Eastern religion and a widely accepted practice of New Age religion. Well, this show might be controversial for some Christians, as we are going to first of all show that meditation has strong biblical support and also look at the benefits of meditation. Hence the title of today's show, The Physical, Emotional, and Spiritual Benefits of Meditation. With me in studio today is the award-winning psychotherapist, Michael Hart. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much, Bettina, for that wonderful introduction. And it's good to be back here in studio again to do such an important topic, because I know, as you said in your introduction, that this is going to be a very controversial topic. And I like your images of monks and temples and yoga poses. But I can just assure my listeners that that is not what we're going to be talking about today. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be given any weird poses for you to do. We're not going to be selling any incense on this show, and there is nothing burning in the studio right now. Is that true, Bettina?
Nothing at all.
We don't have any incense burning right now. We are not meditating as we are doing this show. So we are going to be coming to this topic from a biblical perspective, as usual, and talking about meditation, its benefits in a way that is going to be helping you to understand what meditation really is and how you can use it. And today's show again is entitled The Physical, Emotional, and Spiritual Benefits of Meditation. And so we're going to be showing how meditation is beneficial in these three areas and giving you tips as to how you can reap the benefits of meditation.
So, Michael, why don't you define what we mean by meditation in the context of this
That's
show?
a good place for us to start, Matilda. I think it's really good for us to start by defining what we mean by meditation so people can just release their anxiety right away, that we're not going into anything.
And we're not going to do any weird noises, any humming, no.
Okay, so meditation has been defined as concentrating the mind from steering the mind away from distraction and concentrating your focus on a single point of reference. And so when you're meditating, what you're actually doing is saying, I am preventing myself from being distracted. And there is something that I want to focus my attention on. And so meditation is simply steering the mind to what it is that you want to focus on. And we'll get into more detail later on, but that I think it's a good definition. And one of the things that we know about meditation as we do this show is that meditation has been used for thousands of years in many different cultures across the globe. And so this is not new, as some people might think it's some new age belief to meditate. Now, meditation has been around for a long time, and it is simply the focusing of the mind on something.
And so, Michael, some of our listeners may see meditation in a negative light. And can you tell us, is meditation supported by the Bible?
Absolutely, Bettina. Meditation runs all throughout the Bible. I think that the Sabbath day, in a sense, is a form of meditation. When God rested on the seventh day and declared that we are to do the same, it's a way of saying that we are to protect our minds against distraction. And what he's telling us to do on that day is to meditate on him. So when God says this is a holy day that is set aside, it's the Sabbath. It's a way of saying, on that day, I want you to focus on me. So the day is not holy just by what it is. It's holy because of what the focus is supposed to be. So even the first institution, the first law of keeping the Sabbath is a form of telling us that we need to set our mind, focus our mind on God. The Bible also tells us that God will keep in perfect peace he whose mind is stayed on him. So what that scripture is telling us is that there is a peace that we can get if we focus our mind on God. If we set aside time to meditate on God, that is what that scripture is telling us. And I could think of other reference, Bettina, in the New Testament itself, where we are told that Jesus would often slip away from the crowd into a mountain to pray. Yes. So that to me is a form of meditation. Yes. When he's saying, you know what, I know there's a lot of people to be healed. There's one occasion we are told that there was actually like a lineup of people waiting to be healed, and that this crowd was gathering. And Jesus slipped away from the crowd and went away to pray. So he's saying that this is telling us that Jesus saw this as so important that he was even willing to delay the healing of people to meditate. Now, why would he do that? Because Jesus knew that for him to be effective, these times of slipping away, these times of going into the mountain to meditate and to focus his attention was very, very crucial to his success when he's in a human body. So it is so surprising that many of us, we overwork ourselves and we get into burnout because we do not spend the time we do not make it a practice to set aside time to be still. The Bible tells us also to be still and know that I am God. And we do not set aside time to do that. We get caught up in the busyness of life. And meditation is simply saying, I am going to take this time away to focus my mind on what is important, to focus my mind on something that I want to focus on. And Jesus did this repeatedly. There are so many scriptures in the New Testament where we are told that he went away to pray alone in a lonely place.
I really like that, Michael, the fact that Jesus, our primary example, meditated. That tells a lot. And so I wonder if we can talk about the benefits of meditation. And maybe we can start first with the physical benefits, Michael.
Yes, there are many studies that have been done that show that meditation has a number of physical benefits. There are studies that show that meditation helps with things like high blood pressure, for example. So if you have high blood pressure, the studies are showing that by setting aside regular time to pray, your blood pressure readings can actually go down just by meditation, because meditation again is setting aside time to be in a quiet place to focus your mind on a point of reference or on someone in terms of Christianity, that is God. And this is what Jesus did. His focus when he was in the mountain was God. And so, yes, so people who meditate, there have been studies that have been shown that it helps with high blood pressure, even things like irritable bowel syndrome. The studies show that meditation helps with flare-ups, in preventing flare-ups of irritable bowel syndrome. It helps with anxiety. It helps with depression. And there is also some evidence to show that it might even help in people managing their pain. So people who can can meditate and distract the mind and focus, can actually get relief from physical pain as well. So there are many studies that have been done that show this. If you want to have access to any of these studies, then just give us a call and we'll be happy to provide you with some of these sources that we're talking about here. But there are a lot of evidence that shows these physical benefits.
And now what about the emotional benefits? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and that's such an important thing, because a lot of people that come to see me, they have these emotional problems, such as, we talk about anxiety. That's a form of emotion as well. But emotional problems can also have to do with things like trauma, where people are dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome, or they're just very, very anxious about something that's coming up. And oftentimes their minds are the minds of these people are racing. It is just so caught up in the negative, in the fear, or in the event of the trauma. And meditation is a way that you can take back control of your mind from this. So there is emotional benefits in that sense. And so meditation can relieve these symptoms and can help a person to become calm again, or to get a proper perspective. Yeah. So we're told in the scriptures that when Jesus was faced with the cross, when he was at Gethsemane, he would send disciples away, and he would pray. And he prayed on I think about 3 different occasions. We are told that he prayed. And in this praying, what he was actually doing, I think one of the things that he was doing is that he was alleviating his anxiety, because we know that he was praying to God and saying, God, if possible, let this cup pass from me. Yes. So what he's actually experiencing there is the agony of what it's going to be like to be nailed to a cross, to be pierced with a sword. He knew everything that was about to happen to him, being God in human body. And he knew, being God, the intensity of that pain. Yeah. We can only imagine what something in the future is going to be like. But Jesus, being God, knew what every nail would feel like, what the point of the sword would feel like. And it created anxiety. And so Jesus is praying. The same Jesus who for 3.5 years were telling the disciples, I have to go to Jerusalem and die. And even when Peter was saying, Lord, far be it from you, he said, no, get thee behind me, Satan. Right. I have to go. Right. But when it came to crunch time, he's a human being. And he started having these emotional symptoms. The Bible tells us that he prayed till his sweat was like drops of blood. Right. And so he's agonizing about the cross. And meditation is what brought him through this agony, where he said, Lord, nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. So I don't know what it is you're facing today as you're listening to the show, or what is it that you're going through in your life. But meditation can be an emotional benefit where it gives you that strength to be able to cope with what's ahead of you.
And so this is really good. We talked about the physical benefits. We talked about the emotional benefits. What about the spiritual benefits, Michael?
Absolutely. That's such a good question as well. And I think the spiritual benefits is probably tied up in some of what I said about Jesus here, because spiritually it is desirable as Christians for us to do the will of God. And when we are ruled by fear, when we are ruled by the past traumas of our life, whether it be sexual abuse or some accident that we have been in, and we are living in fear, oftentimes these symptoms prevent us from becoming all that we could be in God. And so the spiritual benefits of meditation is that by meditating, you can overcome these obstacles. You can get to a place where, like Jesus, you said, I'm not afraid of that anymore. So through meditation, Jesus came to this place where he said, I'm not afraid of the cross anymore. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. And I think many of us are hindered. We are set back by fear.
True.
And meditation can help us by focusing our mind on God, like Jesus did when he was faced with the cross. We can achieve those spiritual things that God has in store for us, because just like Jesus, God has a plan for each and every one of us. For Jesus, it was to go to the cross. But there are many of us, we don't get to what God wants for us because we are ruled by our fear. We are ruled by the things of the past that have affected us, and we do not take the time to meditate and deal with it. One of the things that I see in my practice that there are many Christians who are afraid of their past, and they go through life being busy. And they even get so busy with church work, right? Because it's a distraction from dealing with their past. And I see some of these Christians who come in, and once we start touching on the pain of the past, they will give me a call the next day and they will say, Michael, I think the Lord has dealt with it already, and I'm not coming back because I'm miraculously healed now, because I don't want to look at my past. The past is taken care of itself. But that's fear.
Right, it's fear.
That's fear. And we need to be able to be honest with ourselves and say, there are some things about my past that I need to deal with. And meditation and focusing on God and who you are in God can help you to overcome that past.
Right.
So I see that we are halfway in the show, so we should give out our contact number and tell our listeners who we are. So if you have just joined us, you're listening to the Life Transformation Show. This is your host, Michael Hart of Elim Counseling Services. And with me in studio today is Bettina Davilmar. And we are discussing the topic, the physical, emotional, and the spiritual benefits of meditation. If you're not familiar with Elim Counseling Services, we are a non-profit organization that provides professional psychotherapy from a Christian perspective. If you would like to give us a call, our number is 1-877-544-3546, or you can go to our website at elimcounselingministry.com. And we would like to take this opportunity to remind you of an upcoming event. We have a retreat that is coming up on the 8th to the 11th, the 8th to the 10th of November. And it's at the Providence Point in Lanark. We already have people registered. We are not taking a lot of people. This is a very intimate and powerful event for the few that will come. And so if you would like to be part of this life-changing, and when I say life-changing, it is a life-changing event. The last retreat that we had people from the States, we had people from Toronto, we had people from different cities around Ottawa, and I'm sure this time will be no different. So if you'd like to register, give us a call again, 1-877-544-3546.
Michael, this is such a great show. I'm learning so much more. I thought I knew about meditation, but I'm learning even more. Now, we touched on all of these benefits. How do you use this with your clients? How do you use meditation?
Yes, that's a good question. And I'm happy that you asked that question, because I think it's important for us to understand, because I think I talk about a lot of things where, when I'm talking about trauma and, anxiety, people are probably wondering, like, how do you do that, right? And how does meditation work when you are afraid of a sexual, I said, I'm losing my voice here, but I need to meditate. Maybe I need to take a break and meditate on here so if you have a long silence of 10 minutes, we are meditating.
Because Michael is meditating.
All right, I don't think we can do that on air. So let me talk about how, even if my voice goes, my listeners will forgive me. So let us talk about how I use it in my practice. So I'll give you an example, and I'll change some of the details so that the person cannot be identified. But when someone comes in, for example, someone who came in and they had a horrific accident that happened many years ago, and every time that they think about this accident, they're in tears. Even though it happened over 20 years ago, they were in tears, they had trembling, they were sweating, and they just had all the symptoms as if they were reliving the event. And so by meditation, we are able to bring the person back to that accident scene by thinking about what happened, how it felt being there, who was involved. And that's a form of meditation, because you're actually recreating the accident in the person's mind in a controlled environment where they have the support of a professional. And through this meditation, the person eventually gets to a point where they are not afraid of that accident anymore. And each time that they would come in, we would talk about it in detail and meditate on it. And in the process of time, they get to a place where we can talk about the accident. There is no more tears. The person is no longer afraid. And in a lot of times, the guilt that they carry, the guilt which in many cases is not appropriate guilt, is relieved by using meditation in this light. I think we also use meditation in a spiritual way in our sessions, where we talk. One form of meditation is guided imagery. And through guided imagery, we can actually take the person back to the scene through meditation. But instead of being there alone, they now have Jesus with them. And so in their meditation, they're actually seeing where Jesus was when all of that was going on. And so this can be very powerful for people who have been sexually abused as well. Because, one person told me that they were, as a child, they were looking through the window when they were being abused, and they couldn't see why God would allow this thing to happen. But they said in one of their meditation, when they looked through the window, they saw Jesus standing right there. And he was telling them, it's going to be okay. You're going to survive this. And it was very comforting, because they realized that they weren't abandoned. And that although bad things happen in this evil world, a lot of time God is walking through us through the hard times, and he's protecting us in ways that we can see through meditation. So those are some of the ways. Another way in which we use it are people who come in and they have something that has just happened at work. For example, they hear that there might be some downsizing that is coming up, and they come in to see me, and they say, well, like my stomach is in a knot. I feel like I'm going to throw up because I've just heard this bad news and I don't know how I'm going to survive. Through meditation, we can help the person to begin to get out of this fear-based way of looking at the situation. And so they could, one of the things that we do in meditation is just help them to begin to take their minds off that thing. And as I said, meditation is a focusing of the mind on something. So let's take your mind off that and let's focus your mind on God for a few minutes. What do you hear God saying to you about your future? And don't say anything, just close your eyes and think for a few minutes. What do you hear him saying? What are the scriptures that are coming to your mind as you meditate on this? And when I take my clients through this form of meditation, in actually minutes, they tell me they're not that panic feeling anymore. They come out and I said, how are you feeling? They said, I'm calm. I'm relaxed. I don't feel afraid anymore. And this happens all the time, almost every time I do this. I would say not almost, but every time I do this, there's a positive reaction to it, because meditation actually causes physiological changes in the body. So instead of your body secreting stress hormones, which affects your digestive systems and gives you headache because of the blood flow that is rushing to your large muscle groups to prepare you for fight or flight, what meditation does is that it calms down your nervous system and it helps you to be more balanced about the future.
Michael, let's talk about this last one. Are there different types of meditation?
Yes, there are different types of meditation, and I think I've alluded to some of the kind, or at least one of the kind, when I talked about guided imagery. So guided imagery meditation is where you focus the attention on something that you have recreated. If you're dealing with trauma, you're recreating the scene of the trauma and you're walking the person through this trauma with Jesus there. So that's guided imagery. Guided imagery can also involve more relaxing type of scenarios where someone who is fearful or is in a turmoil or they're in an emotional state, you can get them to imagine a peaceful place. So just sit for a moment and think about this, your most peaceful place. Where would that be? What kind of sounds do you hear as you're sitting in this peaceful place? What do you see? What do you feel? Is there a smell that is associated with this place? For some people, they said, yes, that's the smell of the ocean. I can just smell it right now as you talk about it, the fresh smell of the ocean.
I'd like to be there right now,
yes,
Michael.
and so even in the dead of winter, you can be there in your mind, because the good thing about our nervous system and that part of our brain that deals with fear is that it doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. And so that's why we can be scared to death by a movie, right? Because,
so true.
Because that part of your brain says, oh, that person's actually, the dragon is really coming, but we know it's not real. And so that's another form of meditation is what I call mindfulness, where you can sit and just be in the moment, just focusing on things in the present and take your mind away from the future. So can you see the colors in the room where you are? Can you feel your feet on the floor, right? Can you feel your hands? Can you feel the sensation of your ring on your finger? And all of that is a form of mindfulness which centers the person in the present. But mindfulness can also be centered on God.
Right.
And this is where we'll close today, because I see that we're quickly out of time. But mindfulness can just be saying, let's think about the names of God and what they mean to you. Let's think about your scriptures and meditate on the scriptures that bring you peace. And so these things are very, very powerful. So again, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Life Transformation Show. And Bettina, thank you so much for those wonderful questions and helping us to explore this topic in such a deep way. If you'd like to get a hold of us, our number is 1-877-544-3546. Remember that you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com, patreon.com/Elim Counseling. You can support us for as little as $5 monthly. Every little bit helps us to keep this show on the air and also to provide counseling at a subsidized rate, being a non-counseling organization. So until next time, this is your host, Michael Hart of Elim Counseling Services.
And Bettina Davelmar.
Praying together that God would bless you in all your relationships and keep you sound in mind and pure in heart.